Welcome to Headline Hub Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. The South China Sea is a vital global trade route, a maritime crossroads through which trillions of dollars in goods pass each year. Its waters are not only rich in marine life and natural resources, but also serve as a lifeline for economies across Asia and beyond. Yet beneath the surface, this region is a dangerous flashpoint, where the interests of powerful nations collide. At the heart of this tension lies Scarborough Shoal, a seemingly insignificant chain of reefs and rocks. Despite its small size, it is fiercely claimed by China, the Philippines, and even international mariners who recognize its strategic importance. The shoal is more than just a cluster of rocks. It is a symbol of sovereignty and a gateway to vast fishing grounds and potential energy reserves. This dispute is not merely about territory on a map. It is a clash of national pride, historical grievances, and geopolitical ambition. For both China and the Philippines, control over Scarborough Shoal is deeply tied to their national identity and their vision for the future. Chinese Coast Guard vessels now patrol the shoal relentlessly, their imposing presence blocking access to the rich fishing grounds that have sustained local communities for generations. These patrols are a daily reminder of the shifting balance of power in the region. Filipino fishing boats, once free to fish these waters, now linger at the edges, watching and waiting. For many Filipino fishermen, Scarborough Shoal is not just a livelihood, but a heritage passed down through families. Tensions often boil over, with Chinese ships using water cannons and aggressive maneuvers to drive away Filipino vessels. These confrontations are not just dangerous, they are deeply personal, affecting the lives and safety of ordinary people. The world watches as these encounters are captured on smartphones and broadcast globally, fueling outrage and escalating diplomatic friction. Each incident becomes a flashpoint, drawing in international attention and concern. The roots of this crisis stretch back decades, with overlapping claims and unresolved boundaries creating a complex web of disputes. The South China Sea has long been a stage for competing ambitions and historical narratives. In 2012, the standoff at Scarborough Shoal erupted when the Philippines attempted to arrest Chinese fishermen accused of illegal activities. What began as a local enforcement action quickly spiraled into a major international incident. A U.S. brokered deal was supposed to ease tensions, but as the Philippines withdrew, China maintained its presence, effectively taking control of the shoal. This move altered the region's strategic landscape and sent shockwaves through the international community. The dispute is no longer a local squabble, it has become a test of international law and order. The world's leading powers and institutions are now involved, debating the rules that govern the seas. The Philippines has turned to international law, seeking justice through the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled in favor of the Philippines, rejecting China's sweeping claims. Yet China continues to assert its claims with a strong physical presence, building up its Coast Guard and maritime militia, and raising its flag over the contested waters. The world watches closely, aware that the outcome of this dispute will set a precedent for maritime security and the rule of law across the globe. The fate of Scarborough Shoal is now tied to the broader balance of power in Asia. Military patrols and strategic alliances are shifting as nations seek to protect their interests in these contested waters. How this standoff unfolds will determine not only freedom of navigation for commercial ships, but also the future of international cooperation and conflict at sea. Despite its small size, Scarborough Shoal's significance is immense. Its location gives whoever controls it a strategic advantage, influencing military, economic, and political dynamics throughout the region. The ongoing confrontation is a microcosm of larger geopolitical struggles, reflecting the rising competition between global powers and the uncertain future of the Indo-Pacific. The resolution, or lack thereof, of this dispute will have profound and lasting implications for the Indo-Pacific, shaping the security architecture of the 21st century. As the sun rises over the South China Sea, the world waits and watches, knowing that the outcome of this shoal of contention will help define the future of global maritime security and the balance of power for generations to come. The Philippines asserts its claim over Bajo de Masinloc, also known as Scarborough Shoal, by drawing on both international law and a long history of local presence. Filipino officials have repeatedly emphasized that their claim is not only rooted in legal documents, but also in the lived experiences of generations of Filipinos who have depended on these waters. Bajo de Masinloc lies well within the Philippines' Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ, as defined by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, commonly known as UNCLOS. This international agreement, to which both the Philippines and China are signatories, grants coastal states special rights to marine resources within 200 nautical miles from their shores. Geography further strengthens Manila's position. The shoal is located just over 120 nautical miles from the Philippine island of Luzon, while it is nearly 500 nautical miles from the Chinese mainland. This proximity makes the shoal a natural extension of the Philippines' maritime domain. For centuries, Filipino fishermen have sailed to these waters, relying on the rich marine life around Bajo de Masinloc. They have called it home, referring to it by its Filipino name, and passing down knowledge of the area through generations. The shoal is not just a distant outcrop, it is a traditional fishing ground that has sustained countless Filipino families. The catch from these waters is vital for local communities, supporting livelihoods and food security. Historical records back up these claims. Philippine maps dating as far back as the 18th century have consistently included Bajo de Masinloc as part of the national territory, showing a long-standing recognition of the area's importance. In 2009, the Philippine Congress passed the Baselines Law, which formally defined the country's territorial boundaries, including the shoal. This law reinforced the Philippines' claims under both domestic and international law, making its position clear to the world. For many Filipinos, the dispute is not just about territory or resources, it is a matter of national sovereignty, pride, and dignity. The issue stirs strong emotions and a sense of unity among the people. When Filipino fishermen are blocked from accessing these traditional fishing grounds, it is seen as a blow to the nation's honor and a source of frustration for those whose lives depend on the sea. The ongoing dispute is often described as a David versus Goliath struggle, with the Philippines standing up to a much larger and more powerful neighbor. This narrative resonates deeply with the public, fueling calls for justice and respect. Ultimately, the fight for Bajo de Masinloc is about defending sovereign rights, preserving maritime identity, and ensuring that future generations of Filipinos can continue to rely on these waters as their ancestors did. China claims Huangyan Island based on historical rights. The 9-dash line on Chinese maps represents this claim. Beijing argues ancient Chinese sailors discovered and governed the area. Historical texts and maps are cited as evidence of continuous presence. The 9-dash line is a cornerstone of China's national identity. China views legal challenges as attempts to negate historical rights. Actions at the shoal are seen as defending sovereign territory. This clash of narratives is central to the dispute. Frustrated by China's persistent and expansive activities in the South China Sea, the Philippines decided to take a bold step. Seeking a peaceful and lawful resolution, they brought their case to international arbitration under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. This move marked a significant moment in the ongoing maritime dispute, as the Philippines turned to the global legal system for support and clarity. After years of careful deliberation and high-profile hearings, the International Tribunal delivered its verdict in 2016. The decision was clear. The ruling overwhelmingly favored the Philippines, setting a legal precedent in the region. The tribunal found that China's sweeping claims based on the so-called 9-dash line had no legal foundation under international law. This was a direct challenge to China's narrative of historic rights over vast stretches of the sea. Furthermore, the tribunal declared that Scarborough Shoal, a key flashpoint in the dispute, is legally classified as a rock. This means it cannot generate its own exclusive economic zone, limiting the maritime entitlements China could claim from it. The ruling also confirmed that Scarborough Shoal lies well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, granting the Philippines special rights to resources in these waters. Despite the clarity of the tribunal's decision, China outright rejected the ruling. It continued its activities in the South China Sea, including building artificial islands and deploying Coast Guard vessels, further escalating tensions in the region. Although the ruling is legally binding under international law, it lacks any direct mechanism for enforcement. No international police force exists to compel compliance, leaving the decision unenforced. China's open defiance of the tribunal's decision raises serious questions about the effectiveness and authority of international law in resolving such disputes. The international community now faces a difficult dilemma. Should it take concrete steps to enforce the ruling, or accept China's defiance and risk undermining the global legal order? Without strong and unified global support, the impact of the ruling remains limited, and the precedent it sets may be weakened. This situation is a critical test for the strength and credibility of international legal systems, challenging whether rules can truly govern powerful nations. Around the world, people watch closely, wondering if the principles of international law will prevail, or if power politics will ultimately decide the outcome. Ultimately, the legacy of this landmark ruling depends on the willingness of nations to stand together and uphold the rule of law in the face of defiance. Scarborough Shoal's value lies in its strategic location. It's a rich fishing ground, vital for coastal communities. The seabed may hold significant oil and gas deposits. Militarily, the shoal's location is crucial for regional control. For China, it completes a strategic triangle in the South China Sea. A military outpost there would threaten the Philippines and US bases. For the Philippines, it's a critical component of national security. The shoal's loss is both an economic and security blow. The fight for Bajo de Masinloc is about strategic depth. Control over the shoal influences regional power dynamics. The dispute is a microcosm of larger geopolitical struggles. The shoal's significance extends beyond its size. The South China Sea is rapidly militarizing, led by China's island building. Artificial islands serve as military bases, altering regional balance. China's actions raise fears of a fortified Scarborough Shoal. Regional nations respond by modernizing their militaries. This creates a security dilemma, escalating tensions. The South China Sea is a vital trade route essential for the global economy. Militarization threatens freedom of navigation and global stability. A crisis here could disrupt global supply chains. The security of this waterway is a global concern. The marine environment of the South China Sea is a silent victim. China's island building destroys coral reefs, vital for biodiversity. Destructive fishing practices exacerbate the damage. The tragedy of the commons plays out, with resources overexploited. The long-term sustainability of fisheries is in doubt. This threatens food security for millions in coastal communities. The environmental crisis will outlast geopolitical tensions. The region's marine ecosystems face irreversible damage. The silent collapse of the environment is a global tragedy. Scarborough Shoal is a test case for the international order. China's defiance of the Hague ruling challenges global legal systems. If unchecked, it sets a dangerous precedent for territorial ambitions. The situation is watched globally, with implications for other flashpoints. ASEAN's unity is tested, with divisions over Chinese pressure. A cohesive Southeast Asian community is threatened by geopolitical competition. A multilateral approach is needed for a long-term solution. The waters around Scarborough Shoal remain tense. The dispute symbolizes a world navigating great power rivalry. The future of international law and order is at stake. The region's stability depends on balancing deterrence and diplomacy.